Hello, AP Psychology, guys. This is it. It's the last unit. The exam is going to cover or can cover up anywhere um, in units 1 through 7. Obviously, in a test that asks you a whopping 14 questions, I don't think they're going to get through every single unit, but we're up to unit 7. So, unit 7 is motivation, emotion, and personality. Now, my goal is to post this by May 8th on that Friday because I don't want to take the whole of the week of May 11th to review Unit 7 because your exam's the following week. So please try to get through Unit 7 by next Wednesday so that you have some review time because one of the FRQs is going to be research based. So I want you to review that. I want you to go back and look at the research methods and the other units as well. Okay, so drives and emotions. Oh, the page numbers are out of order because they, did a little revamping. Anyways, motivations. Your behavior is driven by motivation, a need or desire to energize and direct behavior. Motivations are a result of brain activity by nature and nurture. Again, that idea of who you are is due to your genes and physiological nature of you, but culture and society impact that as well. So, primitive motivation or an instinct is the complex and learned behavior that is rigidly patterned throughout a species. So, instinct, I think I like the phrase primitive motivation. That's obviously going to go more with your physiological self, right? These are the actions carried out due to neural impulses that are genetically coded and does not involve consideration or thought. You are not thinking about the decision you're making. It is an instinct. So the example given is beavers don't get all together, cluster up together and say, hey guys, I think maybe we'll build a dam, and I don't know, maybe we'll get the wood from here, we'll move this, but no, they just do it, right? The way that a salmon swims is just something that they do. Then the infant rooting or sucking their tongue or their fingers, that's something that's instinctual. I would even argue that if someone looks like they're gonna go punch you in the face, you may move or you may or swing back. That's an instinct. Everyone has different ones. So it's instinct. Just think that it's not something that you learned. It's something that's innately within you. Excuse me. It's something that you don't even think about. You just do, and it's that primitive. It's part of your natural self. And then we have incentives that are both positive and negative that impact and motivate a behavior. They can be used to motivate people. So we have the extrinsic motivation versus an intrinsic motivation. Remember, extrinsic comes from outside of you, intrinsic is within you. So you join a baseball team because you want to put it on your resume as you apply to college. That is an extrinsic motivation. You join the baseball team because you love playing baseball. It's so much fun to you. That's intrinsic. And again, those ideas went over in another unit of ours. All right, so homeostasis. Your body is constantly just trying to be in a state of homeostasis, which is the maintenance of a steady internal state. Everything is good, right? You're adequately fed, hydrated, aroused, satiated socially, engaged in meaningful work. If all of these things, like think of that kumbaya and that balance. It could be blood sugar regulation. Everything is perfect. This never really happens, right? And nobody's in homeostasis right now. I mean, we're stuck at home. And even if you do maintain a moment of it, you're not going to maintain this for a long time because we humans have lots of needs. We just have so much stuff that we need. We have fundamental biological and psychological requirements for your physical and mental health. You need oxygen, food, water, rest, security, you need to procreate, social acceptance, companionship. I mean, just think about it. There are so many things that we need for both your physical and your emotional health, that even if you meet that moment of homeostasis, in the middle of your yoga session or in a song that you're really enjoying, the end of a meal, it's not going to stay that long. And the forces that compels us to meet the need is the drive. So in order for you to get fed, get the oxygen, get the rest, that's what drives you. That's the physiological and psychological arousal that it compels you to satisfy the need. So the pain of discomfort, like on hunger, thirst, etc., that drive is meant to satisfy a need, and your drives, you're driven to meet needs to get into a state of homeostasis. And now here are the drive theories. There we go. So there are several theories that attempt to explain motivations. And while there are often many suggestions for meeting the needs, meaning sleep is so important. I know it's probably very difficult for you right now to get some sleep, but sleep is very important. Being hydrated, food, being, social. There's the drive reduction theory, excuse me. So this is the idea that physiological need creates an aroused tension state that motivates an organism to satisfy a need, and attempts to explain motivation as based on discomfort, pain caused by drives. Each drive compels us to meet a need. So the odds that all people would remember to drink enough water to survive without this thirst is unlikely. So basically what drive reduction theory is, the reason that you're alive is because you have drives, right? You eat food because you are hungry. You drink water because you are thirsty. You go to sleep because your body tells you you are tired. So the drive reduction theory has to do with this idea that you are kept alive because you are driven to do things that your body needs. Drive reduction theory. Then there's the arousal theory, which holds that each person has a unique arousal level that is right for them, right? So for water or sleeping, for example, I need a lot of sleep. I go to bed pretty early. I get like a good 7 to 8 hours. My husband doesn't. He gets like 6 and he's happy, right? We both, so that's the arousal theory is that everyone has a different amount. Water, man, I'm always thirsty. I'm drinking water nonstop. My son's the same way. I haven't seen my husband drink a glass of water in our entire relationship. He doesn't need it, right? So, and those are both physical, but there's also social and security things. So the arousal theory is specific to you, right? Um, Again, social stimulation drops, and then the idea that if drops too low, you might seek by going out to a nightclub right now. If you feel like your socialization is too low, what do? You go on Zoom, maybe you call up a friend, etc. So let's move on to hunger drive. So biologically, appetite itself is caused by the interaction of the hormone and the hypothalamus, excuse me. And this was primarily discovered in rats. So that's the biological reason. Your hormone speaks to the hypothalamus and knows that biologically you are hungry. Then there's the physiological need. The availability of calorie dense and nutrition rich food, food that tastes good, activates a reward sensor. So calorie dense foods are small but packed with calories, requiring you to eat more to feel full. It also releases dopamine. I had read somewhere, I haven't seen this in a long time, that there was an article that explained that Oreo cookies, when someone ate it, and they looked at the brain scan, had the same reaction to Oreo cookies as a person who did cocaine, or Oreo cookies were just as addictive as cocaine. That sounds quite extreme to me, but the idea is that sweet calorie food is stimulating and releasing a dopamine, and also that's why people are addicted to food. Um, Coping with unhappiness by using food, yo, they're calling this the COVID-15, man. People are just going to be, no one's going to get in their pants when we're finally allowed to go outside because you're just feel sad, you're alone, so I'm going to eat, right? That's part, that's that physiological thing. Um, so that's that, right? And then environmentally, we eat when we're in groups. This is real. I hope this is on the test. How funny would that be? The buffet effect, where if there's lots of different foods, you're going to try all of them because you want to try them all. So that's the buffet effect. And then every person has their own weight set point at which you feel the best, right? So, I mean, there are the BMI indexes and things like that, but each of us has our own individual weight that you feel the most comfortable at, that you are the most healthy at. And then research over the past 5-10 years indicates that the only way to consistently lose weight is to not build, excuse me, is to not lose muscle mass, which I find really interesting because there's a lot of folks fasting, and I wonder how that impacts um, their muscle mass. But that's a whole other issue. Okay, so that's hunger. So the idea is that you biologically eat because you physically need to. Physiological, maybe you're trying to fill that void. And then environmentally, a lot of times when we were allowed to go outside, you went outside to meet up people for food. Sometimes you eat more if there's a lot more different foods in front of you. And then each of us has our own set point weight where you feel the most comfortable. And then we have sex drive. This is obviously very primitive, right? And is also impacted by biological factors, but it can be influenced by the environment. So biologically, the hormones, testosterone and estrogen, impact the rate and intensity of a sex drive. Um, Higher amounts of raising sex drive in men and women, respectively, right? Men are higher than women in terms of sex drive. Sex hormones and drive are increased with exercise, health, emotional connections with other people. Um, you have to be physically feeling well for this, right? Men and women also tend to be driven differently. This is brought up in a couple of different units, but it's the idea that men, and I'm sorry if I sound a little crude now being recorded, I'll get in trouble, right? But you just want to go out and, I'm sorry, spread seed, right? Get as many people pregnant as possible. This is not what you actually want to do. This is your biological, right? That innate just need to reproduce and keep the population going. Whereas women, we have to carry around this baby. We have to give birth to it. We have to be with this kid for the rest of our lives. So we're looking for a better quality of human being when we're looking to find a partner. So for men, it's just gotta make lots of babies. And then women, the idea is that you are looking for someone that will help you raise the baby. And then I'm obsessed with him. He's super fascinating. Don't do it now, but after the exam, check out the movie Kinsey. It's about Alfred Kinsey. He does a lot of research on sexual habits, partners, practices. He talked about homosexuality. He came up with the Kinsey scale, which is fascinating. Check that out as well. All right, so that's sex drive. So innately, we are biologically driven because again, we need to keep the human race going up. Men are looking for several partners. Women are looking for the best one. And Kinsey is the guy that studied sexual behaviors, socializing. How am I doing time? Okay. Socializing. So we thrive in groups, which is evolutionary, because if you were in a group, you probably had a better chance of surviving. You reproduced at better rates. You probably felt safer, found more food, had more choices in a mate. Um, you don't want to feel alienated. Um, you know, so again, we socialize. Think back to the cavemen. Think back to the day where if you were in a big group, you're probably safer. You had more food. You had more protection. You had more choices of people. Then we have our buddy Maslow, right? I don't want to spend too much time on this because I only have 2 minutes. So Maslow, I'm going to talk more about him on the next slide, which is the last one. And then our favorite person is Jonathan Haidt, who talks about Gen Z, that's you people, that's you folks, born after 96, show an increase of female diagnosis for depression, anxiety, hospitalized for self-harm. You folks, you're having some issues with the social connection, and I hope you read the article, that I posted on Wednesday of last week. Nope, just kidding, Thursday of last week, about how your generation is actually having a different reaction to being quarantined because you're so reliant on being on social networks and being online and not interacting with people face to face anyways, which is super interesting. And Jonathan Haidt, I'm sure, has a lot to say about that. All right, so that's socializing, and then we'll end with Maslow's hierarchy of need. We've gone over this, right? So just to be alive, you need food, water, warmth, rest, all that kind of stuff, and then you need to feel safe and secure. You cannot be in a healthy relationship with friends or a partner or feel good about yourself until your basic needs are met. And then once you have high self-esteem, you have partnership, then you could try to live the potential, including being creative, etc. So, we're asking a lot of people to work and take classes and be productive when a lot of us are not feeling secure and safe. So according to Maslow, this is not the best time to be doing these things, but this is where we are. That's the pyramid. We've gone over him before. I only have about 20 seconds. I hope that was helpful. I hope you are all doing well. That was motivation or drives. That was drive, sorry.